Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Live with Jennifer Bailey. Today we have Dave Seamons. He's the owner and he's also a tech and one of the most brilliant guys in the world. He's also my father. He's here to answer our questions about all things appliances. He's been doing this since really before I was born, which is just a few years ago. And so I'm going to just pop right in and get started. We've got a lot of different questions that were submitted for him to answer for us. I know all of us have lots of appliances to take care of in our homes, and what better way of finding out what we should be doing with them than from someone who fixes them all the time. So welcome, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a good thing you're doing here.
Thanks.
Yeah, happy to help out however I can too.
Awesome. All right. So one of the really most common questions that everyone is having is which brands are easiest to repair?
Well, the easiest ones to repair are actually the oldest machines, the ones with the fewest electronics and things like that. They used to be pretty simple, and machines have become a little more complicated over the years. As far as brands go, they're pretty similar throughout the spectrum. Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's any one particular one that's any easier than any others.
Okay. What tips do you have to help us keep our appliances running a little longer?
Oh, yes. One of the things we get asked quite often is our customers will say, well, gosh, I only use it 6 months of the year here, and the other 6 months is idle, so this should last twice as long, right? And the short answer is no. Appliances really should be used to keep them in better shape. We find when they sit idle, in particular like refrigerators in this area, when they're not being used, if they get turned off, they can develop problems by rusting, for example, and they don't last quite as long. So use them. You know, they're just like people are. Exercise helps you last a little longer. Yeah.
That's a great tip. So actually, if I was going to sell my house, I probably don't want to unplug it and open the doors. I've seen that happen a lot. Should I just keep it shut and keep it plugged in?
Yes, I would keep them running.
Okay.
And a refrigerator, for example, for our seasonal people, you can turn it down to minimum, and but just let it continue to run. You can put a false load in it, like bottles of water, perhaps, to increase capacity, and that helps it maintain, just a small amount of energy as well.
Great. Nice tip. Thanks. Here's another question that we received was, how much do you charge per hour?
Ah, okay. That's a good one. We get asked on the phone almost all the time. We're probably the only one that actually publishes our rates on our website. Our service call is $69, and that will cover our trip there and the diagnosis, and will cover the first half hour of our service while we're at the house. And most of the repairs that we do can be accomplished in that first half hour. It's fairly rare that we go beyond that. But if we do, if there's a situation where we need to go Beyond that half hour, we do have an hourly rate, and we charge prorated at $60 an hour. So if we needed to be another 15 minutes, it'll be another $15, for example.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. That's helpful. And right on the tail of that, do you have a senior discount?
We do. We can offer seniors discounts, and with 10% is what we can give back to the seniors. But we don't try to guess who's a senior and who's not. So if they mention it while we're there, we're happy to do that.
Perfect. Okay. So for
Don't
you
want to
seniors out there.
don't want to offend anybody and call them seniors.
Okay. That's great. Thanks. What are the longest lasting appliances?
Longest lasting. Well, the ones that last the longest are the oldest ones. It wasn't uncommon for old machines, old washers and so on, to last 25, 30 years. And we don't see that with today's appliances. We give the newer appliances 8 to 10 years, for example, to just because they're built to be more energy efficient. They have smaller motors. They have thinner materials, and lots of electronics in today's appliances. So repairs seem to be a little bit more for newer ones than they are older ones. We do suggest that if you're thinking about replacing an appliance because it's old or something happened, have us check it out first. Let's take a look, see if it's reasonable to repair it. You're probably better off doing that than replacing it.
So sometimes you can you can get parts for older machines sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And and typically repair costs for the older machines are less than they would be for new machines. And replacing a belt, for example, instead of an expensive computer board.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. What do you think is the best brand of refrigerator to buy?
The best nowadays, if you're shopping, and this changes all the time, I would consider getting domestic brands right now, such as Whirlpool, for example. We're finding that some of the foreign-made brands are becoming a little bit harder to get parts for and more expensive to get parts for.
Okay.
And that's changed over the last few years. But yeah, domestic ones is the way I would think I would go these days.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting refrigerators. There's some that make your coffee. There's some that make soda. There's some that order your groceries.
We've seen lots of bells and whistles. Yeah, there's hot water dispensers in refrigerators. There's TVs they tried in refrigerator doors.
Wow.
There was a range that came out a few years ago that acted as a refrigerator, and the idea was that you create a meal. For the working woman could create the meal, put it in the stove, and program it to cook when she got home that evening, and in the meanwhile, it would be refrigerated.
Huh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. What is the best soap or detergent to make my machine run optimally?
Detergents. We do find a lot of trouble with detergents in that. That's one of the key things when we get a complaint that a dishwasher is not working good. The very first thing we ask is, what detergent are you using? Because they need to be fresh to start with. Detergents don't have a long shelf life. So we advise to buy them in small quantities that you're going to use fairly quickly, and buy them in a store that is turning them over frequently. The warehouse stores may not be your best bet for detergents. They might have been sitting there for a while, and the bulk products don't last that long. The type of detergent, we've seen considerable troubles with some of the gels also. Gels are convenient to use, but if your machine's not working properly, they can actually plug up the filters and create just almost a cement on the surface of the inside of the dishwashers. So we would recommend using powder detergent, or even preferably the bricks, the compressed bricks, like Finish, for example. That's one of the brands that several of the manufacturers recommend, and we've found good results using them ourselves.
Great. All right. So don't buy 700 tablets at a time.
Right.
Okay. All right. Even it's good to know.
And if they've been sitting under the sink for a year, toss them and get some fresh stuff.
Get some fresh ones. All right. I've seen this before. What if my dishwasher starts foaming out while it's running? Like all this soap and foam comes out of it.
Yes, we've seen that before. There's a couple of causes for that. One of which would be the difference between dishwashing liquid and dishwasher detergent. Dishwashing liquid, which you use in the sink, will create suds, and if any of that gets into the dishwasher, it can foam and leak out the machine and run onto the floor. One of the ways we found to eliminate that foam would be to use fabric softener, laundry fabric softener. That will help kill suds. And you just use a cap full of such as Downy, and throw that right in on top of the foam that you see in the dishwasher, and let it run. You may have to do that a couple of times, but that will help kill the suds and let them wash out the drain. And just a cap, like little cap here.
I was just going to ask, like a Downy cap, or
amount.
Like you're holding up like a Gatorade.
A small amount, yes.
Okay, just teeny weeny bit, and just throw that right into the dishwasher, and that can help kill the suds if I may have accidentally, or maybe somebody was helping me wash the dishes and decided to fill the little container up with the dishwashing liquid instead.
Right.
And then I have a foamy kitchen, and we don't want that in.
Correct. And a little anecdote, we had one customer that was using the pods, the dishwasher pods, which are very popular now.
Yeah.
But they look very similar to the laundry pods.
Uh-oh.
And they had switched them accidentally and started using Tide laundry pods in the dishwasher, and that created a real foamy mess.
So, so the remedy,
make sure you have the right ones.
For sure. So the remedy for that would be some fabric softener, some liquid fabric softener.
Liquid fabric softener, yes.
Awesome.
That's
all right.
Handy little tool we use.
I would not have thought to put fabric softener in the dishwasher.
No, no one would. In fact, we even carry that on our work trucks.
You have a little bottle
for that reason.
Okay. All right. Here's another good question. Are there any decently made appliances these days, or do they all break in 3 years?
Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit already.
Yeah.
3 years is pretty light. That they would really go beyond that right now. But again, 8 to 10 years would not be unreasonable for today's appliances.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all of them. There's not one that's any longer than another brand, for example.
Okay. Here's a disposal question. What's the first thing I should do if my disposal seems to be stuck?
Yes, stuck disposers are pretty common, and the very first thing you should do if it's stuck and won't run would be to make sure you turn the power off. We don't want a horror story of someone reaching into the disposer and it accidentally coming on.
Yeah.
So make sure it's off, and get a good flashlight and look down inside, and look around and see if there's any foreign objects or missing spoons or knives, and get those out of the disposer first. If it's still stuck after that, you can use an Allen wrench, or there's a wrench that typically comes with most of the disposers that will fit in the center on the bottom of the disposer under the sink. And you can use that to crank the appliance, the disposer, to free it up. And that generally takes care of everything. Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, we can call you and have you come rescue us.
If that doesn't work, we're happy to come see what we can do.
All right. Here's go ahead.
I'm just going to say we're pretty good at finding little missing screws or things like that down in the disposers that a lot of our customers cannot see.
Right. I'm
coins,
sure
things like that tend to get in there.
Have some good stories about things you found in a disposal, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, we do. The one story that comes to mind to me the most that way is we had a customer that lived on the beach that was having that very trouble. Her disposer was stuck, and she couldn't get it freed up. And when we got there, we discovered that there was a gold chain that had come apart, and diamonds and gold chain that had slipped off of her wrist and down into the disposer, and she didn't notice because she had a matching pair.
Uh-oh.
So that's one of our memorable ones. Yes.
You found some jewelry in there. Okay. Here's an interesting one. I've heard this before. Does radiation or radio waves or microwaves or whatever come out? Can it seep out of the microwave, especially if I'm standing really close to it?
It does not. Radiation does not. Microwaves have a lot of safety features. One of which is the door, and you would think if you open the door real quick, does any of the microwaves come out? And there's a switch that's built into microwaves that's designed to blow the fuse if that should happen. If the microwave was running and the door accidentally became opened for some reason, that switch would cause the fuse to blow and shut the power off. The radar waves, as far as you can look through the door of the microwave and wonder, well, how come the microwaves aren't coming out and burning me if I'm close? Because they go through glass, don't they? We can put glass things in the microwave. Well, the answer to that is if you look closely at the door, it's actually a mesh. It's a wire mesh with holes in it, with real small holes that allow you to see through. And those holes are small enough that a microwave cannot get through them. It takes a microwave wavelength is 1.5 inches in length. If you've seen the waveform of a microwave, it would take 1.5 inches hole for that thing to come out and burn someone.
All right, so there's some science to how big those little holes are.
There
that are
is.
on our door. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that little mesh is made so that you can. So they go one way. You can see in, but they can't get out.
Well, I remember you telling me a kind of a gory story, but about how people discovered microwaves and how they cook, how they decided they cook. How do we discover that?
Yeah, how did we discover microwaves? Yeah, and how they work. Uh, the Some of the original microwaves were called radar ranges, and the reason they were called radar ranges is that that wavelength that we use for microwaving is actually what's used for radar. And the anecdote for that was that uh, the people that discovered this were working on microwave energy with using radar and the tips of a airplane for and as they passed in front of it got their they were burned, and so they started investigating why that happened and found that radar waves can actually cook and do it very quickly.
So then we came up with the microwave,
Then they came
which
up with the microwave.
is one of our favorite appliances now, for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe my favorite appliances.
I don't know how we could ever lived without them.
Nope, I don't remember back that far. All right. So another good question that we received was, can you fix things like air fryers or toaster ovens?
Small appliances such as those, we don't repair those. Irons, we get asked fairly frequently, but by the time we paid a service call, you could have, it would have paid for a whole new appliance that way for the small things. So we don't. We just do major appliance service.
Major ones.
Yes.
Do you fix like water heaters?
We do not. Water heater, you'll have to go to your favorite plumber.
Okay.
Or if you don't have a favorite plumber, ask your neighbor, or
Okay.
get advice, from someone that uses them.
All right. Sounds good. But you guys don't do the water heaters. Okay.
We do actually service the ones that go under the sink, the Insta-Hot water heaters. That is us. Those are made. A lot of those are made by a company called Insinkerator, the same ones that do the disposers, and we do service those.
Great. All right. So the Insta-Hot ones that go under the sink, those ones
Yes.
you can fix for us. Do you install them as well?
We do. We can install those.
Here's another great question with washing machines. There's the front loaders and there's top loaders. What's the good and the bad of either one of these? Why would I pick one or the other?
Yeah, they have pros and cons. So some of the big differences are front loaders is probably my preference these days, and some of the things that they have advantages of are they use very little water, the same as most top loaders do nowadays. But the way they tumble the clothes, they tend to absorb that water better than the top loaders do. They don't have an agitator also, so they're easier on your clothes. That's one of the pros. They tumble your clothes and don't tear them up, so your clothes could last a little bit longer. And they have very high spin rates, so by spinning the clothes quickly, it can help your dry times. One of the disadvantages to front loaders, one of the cons would be they all have this rubber boot on the front, and rubber does not dry very well. So those can tend to have a tendency to mildew and start smelling. So there's some things you should do to actually take care of that, or to maintain that. The top loaders not having that don't have that issue. Let's see, what am I missing here?
No, that's good. That actually went right into the next question that was, with the front loading machine, like the boot's all moldy and stinky, what can we do about that if we have the front loader and it did get yucky?
Right.
Or how do I prevent it maybe?
Once they become moldy, there's not a lot you can do. You can clean them somewhat, but they don't get very clean. And you can use a bleach solution to wipe it down with and clean it out, and that will help. But the real cure to those is replacing them, putting a new one on. The key here is prevention, and to help those last as long as they can, some of the things that we recommend is leaving the door open at the end of the cycle,
Okay.
so that it has a chance to dry. If you close the door, it traps that moisture, and then you have a moldy, mildewy mess.
Mm-hmm.
So leave the door open at the end. You can wipe it out even with a towel. If you really want to do some good maintenance, wipe that when you're done with the cycle. Wipe the rubber boot dry, and that will help it last much longer. Also, on occasion, maybe once a month or every couple of months, depending on how much you use your machine, run the hottest cycle that you can, whatever your machine will do, along with bleach, and that will help sanitize and clear that off.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. So I need to get in practice of, after I wash my laundry, just keeping that door open a little bit so that it can just
Yes.
dry out overnight or whatever.
Yes, that's a good practice.
Well, that was actually the last of our questions that we had submitted. Thank you so much for being our featured guest today. Wondered, do you have any closing comments? Anything that you'd like to add to our viewers?
Oh gosh, I don't really. I'm happy to take calls. If people have questions that we might answer over the phone, I'm happy to do that for people. I don't have to come out to charge you a $69 service call just to answer questions. So feel free to get in touch with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So this again, it's thanks everybody for coming and joining on to Live with Jennifer Bailey. Thank you, Dave Seamons, owner of Dave's Appliance, for answering all these great questions for us. You've noticed down on the ticker tape, down on the bottom of the video here is David's phone number and his email address and his website. He does on the website, if you visit his website, he has a lot of frequently asked questions there, tips and tricks on things. Also, I think he designed his own website, so you can tell what he's done. He's done some cute things to it. So check out his website. After the program is recorded and uploaded, I will be adding into the comments his contact information as well as his website so that you all can get to it. It is a family-run business. Of course, Dave Seamons is my dad. My husband works as a tech for him, and my sister answers the phone. So you'll get one of us if you call that phone number, and you'll either be visited by my dad or my husband. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I really appreciate you doing this for us today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jen.
Awesome.
That's always nice, what you try to do.
Thank you. Have a great Sunday. All righty.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.